Hello, everyone. This is Natalie Armstrong-Moton with Marketing Resolution. Thanks very much for watching today. I have with me a colleague from Northern California, Steve Sulmeyer. How are you, Steve?
I'm well, thanks, Natalie.
Good. Thanks very much for spending some time with me today. I want to talk to you a little bit about your practice and how you balance some really unique perspectives to best serve your clients. Tell us a little bit about the kind of mediation practice that you have there in Corte Madera.
What kind of mediation practice I have? Primarily, I'm working with people with ongoing relationships. They might be professional, they might be personal. So, for example, I do a lot of family law, helping people who are restructuring their family or have ongoing parenting issues. Do a lot of probate cases and elder cases where sort of middle-aged siblings are having disputes among themselves about how to deal with mom who now has Alzheimer's, or mom and dad have now passed away. How are we going to divide up their estate? These can be quite complex. There can be a lot of players, and there can be a lot of history that makes it not just about what do we do with the house, for example. Also things like partnership disputes. Partners are not getting along, they're not functioning well. Workplace disputes that might be intra-team, might be inter-team, might be between management and an employee. These kinds of things.
And I know that you're uniquely situated to handle those kinds of cases because you have a background as a psychologist as well as being an attorney, correct?
That's right.
So that when people come to you with issues or conflicts or disputes, you can help them work through not just the litigated aspect of a case or the financial aspect of a case, but also the human aspect in the cases that are brought before you. And I think that that brings a really rich tapestry of possible solutions to your clients.
I think that's fair to say, but I also have found in my experience that you can't really separate out the emotional and the psychological on the one hand from the legal and the financial on the other, what you were calling sort of the litigated issues. A lot of people come to me and assume that we'll just deal with business if it's a business case. But oftentimes what's really going on, what's really fueling the dispute is not necessarily the breach of contract or the whatever the complaint may say. So the dispute as framed by the pleadings really doesn't tell you the whole story, I'd say 99% of the time. So the emotional issues, the psychological issues tend to be pretty woven together with the legal and the financial issues, and separating them is a big part of what I do, because if I don't do that and they remain conflated, that's really what causes impasse a lot of the time.
Right, right. And I know that what all of us in our industry are striving for are durable solutions, not just solutions, but durable solutions. And so your ability to balance all of those aspects of any given case, I think provides clients a fantastic service in that you are probably able to provide better, durable solutions to their issues.
I've definitely found that durability and satisfaction with both the process and the outcome tend to go with addressing the underlying issues, which are often emotional. And even when you can separate out, which you often can, let's say legal and financial issues from emotional issues, if you only address the if you only address the business, let's say, issues, financial, the legal issues, but you don't really talk about, or you only pay lip service to the emotional issues, people often feel ripped off, they feel incomplete, and they'll end up leaving with some kind of a resentment, some kind of a feeling like they didn't really get their day in court.
It's just unsatisfied.
Yeah, basically they just don't feel fully satisfied. And yet when we do address those things, even if it's just naming it, sometimes it's enough just to name it, just to acknowledge, wow, I really see how hurtful this has been for you. I really see how betrayed you feel. I really, really understand just how much pain this has caused you. Sometimes just that can be enough. And then something can relax in the individual, in the room, and then it becomes a lot easier to address the financial issues, the legal issues, the sort of immediate issue that they want an agreement on, because they've been seen on a human level.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly right. And so when you're handling these cases, are your typical clients represented by attorneys? Are they non-represented? Who's your typical client?
I'd say I have two different kinds of typical clients: the pro pers, the self-represented people, and then those who are represented by counsel. They're both typical. I work with both all the time. I would say the people who come in without lawyers are most frequent in the family law cases, whether it's divorce or it could be a post-divorce school choice issue or wanting to change a parenting plan schedule. Those folks oftentimes don't have lawyers, and that's just fine. In most of the other cases, people do have lawyers.
Okay, all right. And so allow me, I don't know, maybe a personal question. How did you get into mediating cases? How did you move from psychologist and lawyer into mediator?
That's a great question. It went something like this. I was an intellectual property litigator. I was doing commercial cases, business torts, intellectual property, and I was pretty successful. I was enjoying it, but on some level, something was missing for me. And after about 12 years of doing this, I decided I wanted to do something that would help me discover what it is that I'm really looking for, that will speak to my soul, that will speak to my heart, and really allow me to draw upon all of my talents, all of myself, which would be more fulfilling for me, and I think much more useful and fulfilling for the people I work with. So I found this very transformational program in transpersonal psychology in Palo Alto, which is about an hour south of where I live. And I just decided to give it a shot. It turned out to be a brilliant program, and I didn't go in with any intention of becoming a clinical psychologist, but that is what happened. But I always knew that I wanted to return to the law, to the legal field in some way. So I'm doing both. I have a 1 day a week clinical practice where I see my patients, and then the rest of the week I'm doing dispute resolution. So it just sort of came into focus as I finished up the doctorate.
It sounds like the perfect marriage of all of the skill set that a person could bring to a mediator table. And I love your passion about it, your sincerity, and really wanting to leave people better off for having come into your office than not. I like that very much about your practice.
Thank you. It's very important to me to look through multiple lenses when I'm dealing with any given dispute. I think most of us probably make the mistake of just looking at a particular lens that just looks at the immediate problem, whatever it might be. But there's always a context. There's always a backstory, or almost always. And so I like to have multiple lenses that I look at the same time, so I can see different views. So I was just reading a little book by John Paul Lederach this morning, and he uses this metaphor of an argument in his family over the dishes. And you could just solve the problem by saying, okay, you do the dishes tonight and I'll do them tomorrow night. But the problem is when you take a view through a different lens, it's actually really more about status and our identity and what does doing the dishes actually represent, and do I feel like I'm a slave? Do I feel like I'm not being respected? And there's a whole host of issues that can be symbolized by whatever the particular immediate instantiation of an ongoing conflict might represent. So by being able to look at the context as well as the immediate content, that's how I think we're able to not only cut through impasse and resolve the immediate problem, but keep it from recurring, because we're really talking about what's really going on. That's really one of the main reasons I got out of litigation, was nobody was talking about what's really happening. All we could do was talk about the issues as framed by the pleadings, what might be admissible in a court of law, but we couldn't talk about the fact that this party really dislikes that party, or felt disrespected, or felt hurt in some way. And that might actually be what's driving the dispute.
You know, I've always been surprised at the value of someone simply saying, I'm sorry, in a mediation room. And the value of just that recognition, just that apology, the weight of that seems to lighten the litigated case, the litigated dispute immensely. And I think people really don't have the experience to put enough value on that kind of communication when these cases, they just get caught up, and it's just this nonstop hurricane of legal briefings and pleadings and communication and bills, and it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
And really, you know, just say, gosh, I didn't realize that hurt your feelings so much, Steve, and I apologize for that. That goes such a long way.
Yeah, it's a great observation. And there's a woman at Harvard, her name's Donna Hicks. She wrote a book called Dignity. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but she points out how important it is to feel like your human dignity is being recognized by whoever it is you're dealing with. And from her perspective, and I tend to agree with it, so much of what causes conflict are perceived indignities or slights to our self-esteem. And so I think that's one reason why an apology goes so far, when it's really sincerely felt. And that is that people really, no, you're recognizing, you're really seeing that I was hurt. Thank you. You're seeing my humanity.
Yeah. And that's something that you can't do in a courtroom.
No, almost never.
So now, for people who want to learn more about your practice or more about your background, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? Is it via your website?
Yeah, that's probably the best way. They can also reach me via the JAMS website. JAMS is Judicial Arbitration and Mediation Services. They're the #1 provider of ADR services in the world, actually, and I'm joining them as of October 1st, 2019. So if you just go to the JAMS website, it's jamsadr.com, and put my name in the search bar, you'll find me that way, or just Google my name and you'll find my website, or you'll find both.
There you go. And your website is sulmeyermediation.com, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so I will definitely put that website link in the description bar down below, and encourage everyone who has a question about mediation services, who has a question about a case, or would just like to contact Steve as a resource, click the link, ring him up. Steve, you know, you're one of my favorite providers. I love the way you practice your art and your science of mediation. I think it's an admirable way to do business. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with me today.
Thanks. I feel the same way. I appreciate your time, Natalie, and thanks for the good questions and for providing this platform.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. So again, I'll encourage anyone, if you know someone that needs Steve's services and you need a referral, if you have a case, please feel free to contact him directly. Thanks, as always, for watching, and be good humans. Enjoy your day.